For those of you who've been watching the channel for a very long time, especially my streams, you would have noticed that I've been using some very old screens. Screens that I've had for roughly like 6 years, 7 years. They're very old screens and they've kind of done the job. They were El Cheapos that I got. They had some things that I needed, an audio output, dual HDMIs, stuff that I needed to have when I was still living with my parents, and I needed to have a screen that could play my console games in my bedroom so that I wasn't bothering them while they were watching TV, and it's pretty much all I could afford with the job that I had. But screens have changed. Screens have completely evolved since when I bought those, and they are now focused more on gamers and what gamers want and what gamers need. What we need is a lot of hardware functionality that makes the games perform better and works with your graphics card if you're running a PC. And also just, you know, we can't have flicker. You can do that kind of stuff in a film. You're not running frame rates when you're watching a movie of like 140, 150, 160 FPS. You're running like 24 FPS with post-filtering. TVs are fine for watching movies, but when it comes to games, you kind of want something a little bit better. I tweeted this a while ago that I needed some extra screens, and lo and behold, AOC, they are gaming screen manufacturers. They got hold of me and said, listen, do you want some screens for your studio? Because we can help you out. And they've just been incredible. They dropped off 3 screens, 2 with FREESYNC, 1 with G-Sync, and I was gonna include both of them in this review, but I've worked with them for a couple of weeks now. I have a couple of opinions about them and a couple of thoughts. Again, disclaimer, they sent me the screens and I've got some thoughts on the screens as to pros and cons, and the G-Sync versus the FREESYNC ones are different in a couple of ways. So this video is gonna be focused on the AOC G2460PF. It's one of AOC's FREESYNC monitors that are extremely reasonably priced. All of these screens are between 4,000 and 5,000 Rand if you're in South Africa, which is a very good price for a gaming monitor, and you're gonna see why you want to upgrade your setup with a gaming monitor as opposed to potentially getting a new GPU. New GPUs cost way more than 5,000 Rand if you want to get something like a 1080. There's a lot of hardware functionality inside a screen, something with FREESYNC, something with G-Sync that works with your graphics card to deliver better performance and a perceived better frame rate. Sometimes you get great frame rates out of your graphics card, but you can't actually physically see them because your screen's only running at 60 Hertz. So let's jump straight into this. Some key specs straight off the bat. It isn't 4K, it is 1080p, which is fine. Guys, you don't need a 4K monitor just yet. There's no need to get something like that, especially as someone like myself who is streaming. I'm not streaming in 4K. Not many South Africans, I don't think any South Africans are streaming in 4K purely because of our internet connection, so you're not really gonna need anything like that. It is a 24-inch panel and it runs at 1 milliseconds, which is, it's like butter. It's amazing. It's got an 80:1 contrast ratio, and it's straight up 144 Hertz. Most screens that you get when you purchase like a television or a relatively cheap monitor will be 50 to 60 Hertz. That's standard, that is fine. It does the job, it works really well. But 144 Hertz means that you can see way more pixels in between. Instead of the monitor not displaying every single frame that the GPU is displaying to you, 144 Hertz catches more of that. So technically it's like double the amount of pixels, depending on what your GPU is capable of putting out. If you want to get 120 FPS, you can really see that on 144 Hertz. It's amazing. If you ever go to like a TV shop or a PC hardware store and you see 2 monitors standing next to one another, some high-end televisions are 100 Hertz. I specifically spent a year looking for my TV a couple of years back just because I wanted a 100 Hertz television. We're playing games. That's what I'm using this for. I'm not watching movies exclusively on it, so I wanted a high Hertz television. I'd rather spend more money for high Hertz than low Hertz. So this is a 144 Hertz screen, and it really makes a huge difference. Even when I started playing Fortnite again, we have a lot of ping issues in South Africa. It really does help mitigate that. And in fact, I actually want to do a video about how to increase your performance in an FPS without spending way too much money other than having your core items. A screen, although 5,000 Rand might seem like a lot of money, it is already one of the lowest end purchases to help increase your frame rate that no one really thinks about other than like a GPU, because GPUs cost like huge amounts of money. GPU, RAM, good monitor. I can't stress it enough. Of the 2 models I received, the FREESYNC one is by far, in my opinion, the best deal. So if you've got a Vega card, a Radeon card, if you've got an AMD system, you're in luck. This is pretty much a beast. It's got all the inputs that you would want. It's got a DisplayPort, it's got HDMI, it's got DVI, and it's got VGA. In fact, it's even got an audio head jack if you want to use it to listen to whatever movie you're watching inside your bedroom, or need it for your game capture setup and you need to kind of reroute the audio through another place, or you simply have someone around and you've got PC speakers on your desk and you want to reroute the audio from the screen, it's got an audio input, which is amazing. Not many screens have that these days. It's generally like a television thing. They also have speakers inside the screen, which I was not expecting. They're kind of tinny. I don't know if I would listen to them if I had to, but it does allow me to monitor the audio pretty effectively. And if I am in a stick and I want to watch something with a friend of mine, I can do that. Like, it's pretty straightforward and I can just turn up the volume. I can hear. It's not the best audio out there, and that's okay. It's not exactly why you bought these monitors in the first place. PC monitors don't have audio in them. Think about it, when you go to a store, the televisions have speakers in them. This is a really great inclusion, in my opinion, and it's helped me be able to work out where the audio is coming from, or if a friend is in the house, I'll just unplug the audio jack and say, listen to this, and then we watch a YouTube video too. It's really cool. It also has a powered USB hub in it with 4 different USB ports. You just plug a powered USB cable into it, running into your machine, carries data as well into your machine. So if you want to run your mouse through the screen or your keyboard, that's great. I've got the SteelSeries Quick Prism, which is an RGB LED mouse pad. That kind of thing is sometimes hard to plug into USB ports if you don't have enough. It's great to have them on your screen, and they are way more easier access. I found that plugging my mouse there is great because I was thinking about getting a bungee cord for my mouse. Don't need it anymore. It's running on my screen. It's great. People invest a lot of money in really high-end monitors that have a whole bunch of different kind of viewing angles or tilt features. The G2460PF is a great monitor for different kinds of viewing angles. It's height adjustable up to like 130 millimeters. It's got a pivot to 90 degrees if you want to look at your screen in portrait mode. I do that a lot of my streams because I have right behind me, right here behind this camera, I play my games. That's my main monitor that I play games on. And on the side of the monitor, I roll with a vertical screen so that I can read the chat, and it's really nice to have that as an option. You can also tilt the screen 5 degrees to 20 degrees depending on what your favorite viewing angle is, your height. If you're really tall, you want to look down, or if you want to push the screen lower, remember you can push it up and down, you can tilt it back. And it allows you to swivel as well, up to like 160 degrees, which is really helpful if you are working on something, maybe something in Photoshop, or you're editing and you have a colleague next to you on your desk and you want to tilt it to them, or if you're live streaming and you have a very weird desk configuration that you need to accommodate. That's a cool way to do that. Having that swivel really helps adjust the position on your desk. The screen also comes with something called AOC's shadow control. In a very easy to understand way, it brings up the lightness in the shadows only. I don't know if you've ever edited pictures before, but if you bring up the brightness in the dark areas or in the shadows and highlights, you can shift those. If you edit photographs, that allows you to see more of what's happening in the shadows, which is really cool if you're playing a lot of dark games. Definitely not Fortnite, because don't worry. Don't have to worry about that. And the big selling point of the G2460PF is the FREESYNC. If you've got a FREESYNC enabled card, I've got a Vega 56 that is FREESYNC compatible card. Having a FREESYNC screen means that they talk to one another, they complement one another. This lets the screen catch every single frame that the GPU is putting out and not missing a beat. A lot of screens, if a lot of screens suffer from screen tearing. If you ever move the screen very quickly, you'll see like a line cut the screen in half. That's called screen tearing, and that's because the screen isn't keeping up with your graphics card. That's the bottleneck in the system. Having FREESYNC, kind of like G-Sync if you got an NVIDIA card, and we'll talk about that screen in another video, allows the game to run as smoothly as possible. It looks incredible. It's hard to show you on a video like this, but it really means a lot, especially if you're playing like an FPS. If you're playing a really movement intensive game, it makes a huge difference to the performance. If you need great reaction time and need to know exactly where your mouse is on the screen without worrying that something is trailing or something is not refreshing fast enough, it's got your back, and it really does make a huge difference. In fact, if you can afford it and you are quite a serious PC gamer, I highly recommend looking at your GPU, your graphics card, whatever you've bought, seeing what service there is in that realm, whether it's G-Sync or FREESYNC, and start getting tech, getting gear like the AOC G2460PF. Like, this screen really makes use of the GPU in a way that we often forget, and it is one of the bottlenecks of the system. When you buy a graphics card, you're not thinking about getting a new monitor. In the same way, I think a lot of people forget about peripherals. They come last. You get your main box first and you get the peripherals later. It's phenomenal, and you've got to use it and you've got to just try it. And I highly recommend that if you don't understand these concepts and you are doubtful about whether they are important for your gaming setup, go have a look at it in just at a LAN, go see somebody using it. Remember, when you you set up your screen, you have to use the display port for the 144 Hertz and the FreeSync. You can't use an HDMI cable, so your GPU needs to have a display port coming out of it. Fortunately, I've got a couple that are out of my GPU. The Vega 56 has like one HDMI out and the rest of them are display ports. And if you don't know much about monitors, you might think that's really silly. Like, why aren't everybody just using the HDMI ports? It's industry standard to use display ports. So yes, thank you so much to AOC for hooking me up. And if you guys are interested in picking up a monitor for yourself, I've included a link in the description to loot.co.za. They are my sponsors for the channel. They look after my channel. If you want to support me, don't worry about donations, don't worry about subscriptions on Twitch. Make sure that you go hit them up, buy yourself something, treat yourself, tweet me, take a photograph, tag them and myself. I'll retweet you guys. It really means a lot for me and my channel. It's super important for the growth of this space and also just the growth of gaming. It means that like other streamers have the potential to get sponsored and do cool things. I can't stress it enough. And again, AOC, I was thinking about buying monitors. It would have been a 15 grand investment to get all three of them. You guys gave them to me. Super grateful for it. It works extremely well. I'm running the Aero X5 V8 notebook at the moment with a display port and an HDMI. I'm running the HDMI into my game capture and the display port into my screen so that I can play live streams at 144 Hertz. I'm only pushing out 60 Hertz, by the way, to the live stream, but I still get that performance with that mini display port to normal port. A couple of throwaway things that I think are really incredible with the monitor is that it comes with a cable manager, like a plastic cable manager that clicks onto the back. Amazing, by the way. And it comes with every single cable that you need, including a line audio cable. I don't know, they just threw that in there and I thought that was really cool of them to do. It was something I wasn't expecting. A lot of times you just rely on the cables you get with your GPU. You don't really rely on the screen, but the screen really came through. It isn't necessarily the world's greatest build quality. It is a lot of the components are plastic, but it looks professional. It looks cool. It's got a brushed metal finish that like treatment that looks amazing. It comes highly recommended, especially for the price point. Look at any 144 Hertz G-Sync or FreeSync monitor. Look at their prices from other brands, and what I'm able to experience at this price point with my GPU is incredible. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you haven't yet, please hit that like button and subscribe. It really means a lot to my channel. I'm going to be uploading another video. Either might have done this one first or that one first, of the other monitor in the series, the G2460PF. That's the version that they have for NVIDIA's G-Sync. There are a couple of differences between the two monitors, and if you've got an NVIDIA GPU, you're gonna wanna watch that video instead. I'll see you guys in another video. High five, a stranger, cheers!